Hello, thank you so much for joining today's video. For those who have watched our ingredients video before, you know how it works. On this video, I essentially deconstruct a theme, and I pick about 10 ingredients that are some of the most famous or the most important ingredients within these themes. And so today we're going to talk we're going to talk about the woody family. So the woody family takes its name from obviously woody notes. I will talk about both natural and synthetic ingredients. For those who have watched our videos, I don't only talk about natural ingredients. I talk about all perfumery ingredients that also include molecules, so synthetic ingredients. And so the woody family is characterized by obviously that woodiness, that woody tone to it. So what will remind you of, the smell of wood, of bark, of trees, of resins. But not only, I'll talk about sandalwood, and you will see how these type of notes are actually not as woody as what you would think. So they bridge into different territories as well. Let's get started with what is probably one of the most famous wood that everybody know about. So cedarwood. So this is the essential oil. And so cedarwood is a very interesting woody extract. Why? Is because there are different types of cedarwood. There are in fact two types of cedarwood, and they don't come from the same botanical species. So this is something that not many people know about, because you kind of you name it cedarwood as a generic term, but coming from two different species means that they actually smell quite differently. So you've got a species that is the Cedrus, so Cedrus atlantica, so Cedar Atlas, and you've got a species that is coming from Juniperus, so a juniper tree. So the Cedar Atlas, which is one of the main cedar wood that you can find in fine fragrance perfumery, is characterized with this kind of very intense, very dark, very leathery tone of cedarwood, whereas the Cèdre Virginie, cedarwood, so Virginian cedarwood, that comes from the juniper tree that I was talking about, so different species, so not coniferous but a juniper tree, is a much milder, softer kind of version of that kind of cedar. So what does cedar smells like? So cedar smells like a very dry wood and very kind of furniture-like type of wood. So when I say furniture-like, I mean the smell of bark, the smell of that tree. So it has this kind of really dry, like shaving, so wood shaving tone to it. And so what characterizes the cedar notes is also the leathery notes, the spiciness also that you find in the cedar. And this one, the one that I was smelling, is this Virginian cedarwood. So coming from the juniper tree. And so this one, very easy to recognize through the smell of pencil shaving. So as soon as you can recognize the smell of pencil shaving, you're sure to smell the Cèdre Virginie. Okay, so think about Cedar Atlas, Cèdre Virginie as almost two different worlds. The Cedar Atlas is going to be quite much harsher, much more leathery, much more burned effect. This one more like milder, more dry wood. I would say perhaps, well, actually much easier to use. Cèdre Virginie tends to be one of the main cedar that you find in fine fragrance perfumery. I then going to go into something that I didn't talk about. I didn't talk about the molecule that you can find in the subfamily of cedar. So cedrol Cedrol, is the main molecule that is responsible for the smell of cedarwood. Okay, so you can find it as an individual molecule. It smells of cedar. It will very be reminiscent of cedar, but will not have the complexity of the natural. And you also have cedryl acetate. So I will talk about this a little bit later when I will talk about vetiver acetate, okay, because both cedryl acetate and vetiver acetate are kind of linked together. So I'll explain to you how. So let's move to vetiver. Vetiver, V-E-T-I-V-E-R, this is the essential oil. So vetiver, so many think that vetiver is a wood, or actually a lot of people don't know necessarily what vetiver is. So is a moss, or is it a wood? So vetiver is a grass. So that looks like this. So you have this illustration in our Perfumer's handbook that you can find in the Perfumer's Atelier. And so you can see here, it's very, very long grass, so okay, perennial grass, so it's very, very green, and you extract it from the root parts, okay? So the root looks like this, guys. And try to picture what that smells. And this is what Vetiver Essential Oil smells like, literally. If you think of this, it smells of root, it's brown, it's earthy, smoky. So think of what could earth and root smells of. And vetiver is very much that. So vetiver is an incredible woody note, extremely complex, extremely strong, characteristic by the smokiness, the earthiness, the woodiness, of course. So we are in the theme of wood, so that kind of bark, tree tone to it. But also one of the characteristics that I really love about vetiver is the nutty smell. So it does smell like walnut. It does smell like the nut tone to it. And that's why it's such all of this kind of smoky, earthy facet to it, plus the nuttiness, makes it a very complex and woody note to use in perfumery. A bit harsh, but also there's very, very strong characteristic. So that makes vetiver oil, essential oil, actually a fairly difficult wood to use, especially if you are pushing it a little bit too far in the quantity, okay? If you want to create a vetiver tone, then go for it. So you can really have it, in quite a large quantity, but know that vetiver will always come with that kind of intensity, earthiness and smokiness to it, okay? So vetiver essential oil, this one is from Haiti. You can also find vetiver Bourbon. One of the main constituents responsible for the smell of vetiver is vetiverol, and you can also find, so that's a fun fact, you can also find another molecules in vetiver essential oil, which is called nootkaton. And nootkaton, interestingly, is the smell responsible for is the molecule responsible for the smell and taste of grapefruit. And so this is why vetiver and grapefruits are two ingredients that go so well together. Okay, so that's quite a little fun fact. A cousin, or let's call it better, a derivative of vetiver is called acetate vetiver. So acetate vetiver is a natural molecule, so naturally extracted from vetiver, and this one is called, the full name is Acetate Vetiver X Vetiver Haiti. So it's directly extracted from the Vetiver Haiti. So how does it work? How come that it's got a molecule name, but it's a natural ingredient? So the molecule name means that the natural ingredients have undergone a process, a chemical, organic process, which is called Acetalization. Okay, so acetalization, sorry guys, it's a bit like chemistry, kind of geek techie, but if you want to understand that acetalization is essentially an esterification with acid acetic, which explain why acetate is slightly acidic. Okay, so it has this kind of slight acidic tone to it. But so what is characteristic of the Acetate Vetiver as well as the Acetate Cedril is that it's a fresher, cleaner, more citrusy, more fruity version to the wood that is derived from. Okay, so it still has the same characteristic. Acetate Vetiver will have the characteristic of earthiness, smokiness. You can see the color as well, it's a bit yellow here. Nuttiness, woodiness, but with that kind of lighter, fresher, cleaner version. So in a way, it is a little bit easier to use than the pure Vetiver Essential Oil, but it comes with its own facet, which is that kind of fresh, citrusy, or grapefruity fruitiness tone to it. Okay, so think about Acetate Vetiver as something that you can use together with vetiver oil or as an alternative to vetiver oil if you're looking for something slightly lighter, fresher, like in haute cologne, for instance. So that's for vetiver. So you'll understand that cedarwood has got this very dry shaving, wood shaving tone, whereas the vetiver has got more of this earthiness tone because obviously where that comes from? It comes from the root, remember. So it does smell like that texture. Okay, so let's move on to the third family or third category within that woody family, which is the Sandalwood Essential Oil. So this one is the Indian sandalwood, which is the main provenance of sandalwood extract or sandalwood essential oil. And so sandalwood is a big family within woody. I will talk about other notes that fall within sandalwood. And what characterizes sandalwood is the creaminess of the wood. So if you think of something that smells milky, that smells creamy, that has this kind of almost caramelized, soft ambery tone to it, then you are into the sandalwood territory. Okay, so you're no longer into the harshness that cedarwood and vetiver has. You're in a much softer note to it. And this is why sandalwood is very interesting wood, because in fact, it would bridge into that ambery oriental note. And this is why sandalwood essential oil or sandalwood molecules are used so much into the territory of amber and oriental fragrances. So sandalwood goes with so many ingredients. It goes with spices, it goes with other wood, it goes with, obviously we talked about it, in ambery and oriental structure, in chypre. It's great kind of milky, soft, round woodiness to it that makes it quite mellow and quite gentle. A lot of people think that sandalwood is a harsh wood, but this is not. This is a misconception. Sandalwood is a soft wood, a round wood, a sweet wood almost. And so sandalwood oil is very rare, is extremely expensive, is extracted from Santalum album, which is the species of tree that needs at least 15 years to grow. So you understand why the price, etc. But there are loads of alternative, cheaper alternative, but very good alternative of sandalwood within the synthetic sandalwood. So you've got loads of them: polysantol, javanol, sandalore, etc. You've got the polysantol here that I'm talking about. Got so many other more actually. All of the suppliers, Givaudan, Firmenich, IFF, all have a sandalwood, synthetic sandalwood note. And so polysantol, and all of them will have this typical creamy, soft, round, ever so slightly sweetness of that sandalwood has. Okay, so they will be slightly different to one another. Some will be stronger, some will be lighter, some will be spicier, etc. But they all have that clearly sandalwood-like tone. and they're very, very good alternative if you don't have Sandalwood Essential Oil at home because it's too expensive or difficult to source. Then get yourself one or two of these synthetic molecule alternatives. Okay, and so the last category of woody notes that I want to talk to you about in this video is the category of amberwood molecules. So here there is no naturals anymore, so I've been talking about quite a few naturals. Here we purely molecules. And why they call amberwood molecules? Because they literally sit between the woody category and the ambery categories. And I would say that they really smell between a cedar and a sandalwood. Okay, so if you think of cedarwood being dry, smelling of like, you know, the bark, the tree, the shaving of the tree, and the sandalwood being more powdery, softer, sweeter, more oriental type of wood. And so you've got loads of them that fall into this category. So I'm going to talk about the timber silk. I'm going to talk about the timber roll. I'm going to talk about Isambert, K with an M, Isambert, and Cedarwood, and the ever more famous, which is called ISO E Super. So let's start with this one. So ISO E Super, some people would not necessarily put it into the amberwood category, but I do. So ISO E Super is one of the most, is one of the most famous ingredients of perfumery, synthetic ingredients. I would say one of the most used molecules in modern perfumery. So these three words, ISO, I-S-O, E, super. So what does ISO E Super smells of? ISO E Super smells of cedary, so it's quite coniferous, okay? And so like, you know, cedar is a type of conifer. And it also smells very smooth, very powdery. I personally like to describe it as the smell of a sauna wood. So if you go into a sauna, it smells quite dry in the air, but it also smells very soft. You know, it smells like a white wood, like a resinous wood. So it's an incredible woody note. It's soft, so it's not harsh. It's not like a cedarwood or vetiver. It doesn't have that strong signature characteristic. So hence why ISO E Super is used in such large quantity in formulas. So it's an ingredient that you can really dose at a very high level without necessarily make your fragrance without killing your formula. Okay, so it's not like the other wood where like if you put too much of it, that's it. It's all what you're going to smell in your formula. But ISO E Super is a very soft, kind of neutral wood. A lot of people actually can't smell ISO E Super on its own. But really, I would say for me, one of the top 10 most important ingredients of perfumery, of modern perfumery. Let's talk a little about timber silk. So timber Actually, it's a really good way as well of describing it. It smells of timber. You know, if you go to like a DIY shop and, you know, you've got that pine wood, really, essentially, like raw pine wood. So timber silk is it's quite close to the ISO E Super. It's from IFF, and it has this kind of like stronger, more diffusive, a little bit more intense version to ISO E Super. Note that all of the 5 ingredients that I'm talking to you in that category of amber wood, bois ambré in French, they're all slight version of one another. Okay, so it's very important to smell them comparatively to one another because the nuance are actually very soft, they're not that far from one another. So timber silk is a little bit of a stronger, deeper notes. You've got Timberol as well, Timberol. So this one will have different name. You'll find it under the name of Karma Wood. It's a bit, again, same idea. So this idea of, pine wood, soft wood, dry wood, sauna wood, resinous, between this idea of cedar and sandalwood, so between this idea of dry and sweet. This one is a bit licoricey as well, so it has this kind of sweeter tone to it. Not as far as Gaillac wood. Gaillac wood is much stronger, much more licoricey, but this one perhaps goes into that direction. But again, quite close to the rest of the Cedar amber, bois ambré, so amber woody notes. I've Isambert K, so Isambert YSAMBER from Simrise. There is a misspelling here. It's an M, Isambert. Is a very diffusive woody note. So all of the characteristic of this amber wood note is that they're extremely diffusive. So diffusive means they're extremely long lasting and they're actually quite vibrant. They don't smell like that. So when you smell them individually, you might be like, oh, I can't really smell much. It's not, what is it? I'm not sure. But actually in a formula, they really kind of make it quite potent, quite diffusive, quite long lasting. So they can be great tools and great, friends in your family. So Isambert also has this kind of cedary, softer, like ambery kind of tone to it. Spiciness, frankincense as well. Think about, the slight smokiness and frankincense. And the last one that I want to talk to you about is a very, very famous and important wood within that category, and it's called literally Cèdre amber. So you got it from the name, cedar and amber, okay? So again, a molecule that is extremely diffusive, same general characteristic of what I've just described over the last 3 or 4 ingredients. So that kind of resinous, that woodiness, that cedary, that oriental sweetness, softness, but quite strong as well. With this, diffusive. You can see this long lasting, but it's quite compact scent. Okay, so they're not smell that kind of breeze, let's say. Okay, so and they're not. If you compare to cedarwood oil, for instance, it's a natural ingredient, so it's quite complex. You can smell the complexity of natural in there. You can smell all of the different facets of a natural. So all of these molecules that I've described just now, a little bit, kind of compact, okay, but extremely important. They are some of the most used ingredients in modern perfumery, in luxury perfumery, extremely diffusive, but fairly neutral. Okay, so that's the plus and the point of it. Neutral comparatively to a vetiver that is not neutral. Vetiver is quite strong, is earthy, smoky. So really good ingredients in that kind of between category between the cedar and the sandalwood, I would say. So that's probably the best way to kind of describe this type of ingredients. There is one type, a couple of woody note that I haven't included in that category. There is the patchouli family and the frankincense family as well. So the patchouli family and frankincense, I'm not going to go through in details of this video where I only talk about 10 ingredients, but patchouli can also fall within the mossy category, tobacco-y category. So it's not a straightforward woody note, even though you will find it mainly categorized within woody. And frankincense also this kind of junipery scent, spicy scent that I also is borderline with the spicy and the balsamic. So it's not necessarily something that I touch on into this woody notes. But for those who think that this is missing, don't worry. It's because I wanted it to be missed in this video. So really the four main categories of wood or subcategories of the woody notes: cedarwood, the vetiver, sandalwood, and the woody amber molecules. Okay, of course, if you want to think about this fifth category, that is a big category of the woody, but more mossy, tobacco-y is the patchouli category. Okay, within woody. All right, so that's it for deconstructing our woody family and some of the most important molecules and naturals that you find in there. Remember that woody is the most, probably the widest family of ingredients in perfumery. So you've got so many more ingredients that we haven't talked about, but really mainly they will mainly fall within that kind of 4 or 5 subfamilies of wood. Watch our other videos. We talk a lot about other families, floral, citrus, leathery, etc. So if you're interested in digging more in perfumery, check out the other video that I've recorded on other topics, and you can also check out all of the details of each of the ingredients that we've talked about in the Perfumer's Handbook that you will find in the Perfumer's Atelier on our website. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and see you next time in the next perfume video.